All right. Good morning, everybody. It is Monday. We're reaching the end of March. This is on the Yard Network. I'm Perry White. Glad to have you guys with me. My man Blue, Zach McKinnell, is about to join me here in a minute, man. We're going to break down week 6 of SEC baseball. Some midweek games took place. Then we had the weekend series. It wasn't as big when you look at the top 25 matchups across the conference that you saw in week 5, but nonetheless in week 6, we had some great matchups. But I think most importantly, we're going to go back to some of those midweek games and talk about some upsets. Tennessee being one of those on a Tuesday night against East Tennessee. So we're going to break that down. We're going to look at some of these games in the series this weekend, and we're going to look ahead to the midweek games coming up this week, go through our power rankings of SEC baseball currently, and pretty much see where teams stand in our book as well as in your book right now, and what things are looking like, because as we continue to get this shaped up, there's some great baseball being played. Great baseball all across the South. Let's get my man Zach in here. And I think, man, when you take a step back and you look at it, you're like, man, look, there's a reason why the SEC is the best conference, baseball conference in the country. Blue, what's up?
What's up, man? Another week.
How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. How about you?
Get my headphones. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? Another week of SEC baseball.
The people right now, man, it was a lot to look forward to. Man, as we get started here in a minute, we look back. I think before we even get into the series of the weekend, it was some of those midweek games. But before we get into all that, Blue, let the people know, my man Zach McKinnell, let the people know where they can keep up and find you.
Yeah, man. The Blue Bloods on YouTube, all podcast streaming platforms, and here on Monday mornings talking SEC baseball along with FCS Football Central on si.com/college/FCS.
As we've been getting into SEC baseball, man, and paying a lot more attention to it, just tell me, what's something that has caught your eye so far this year about SEC baseball?
I mean, I still think it's the depth of the league, and you talk about the depth of the league in other sports, right? With football and I mean basketball, what they set a new record with 7 teams in the Sweet 16. You're gonna have something similar with baseball, if I had to imagine, where I mean you're gonna see an insane number of teams probably make a run to the College World Series. And so I think it's just the depth of the league, man. We saw some teams drop some midweek games, Perry, where it was like, okay, well, what do we make of this team? And here we are at the weekend, they're knocking off top 10 teams nationally. So I think this league's gonna be competitive down to the end. And I also think we're seeing a little bit of a divide being created, right? Where I think we're starting to kind of separate the top, maybe I would say three-fourths of the conference, and you got that bottom fourth. And I think over the next 3-4 weeks, Perry, you're going to see another divide happen where we have the elite contenders separate themselves from the just good teams.
And you look around, man, and just overall, the attentions. Overall, looking at SEC baseball, and you look around the country, you got ACC and so many others. All eyes on the SEC baseball, no matter what day it is of the week.
Yeah. I mean, Perry, the top 25 just came out, and again, the top three teams are SEC teams, and then 6 through 10, you have four of those 5 teams, and then the first two teams out of the rankings at 11 or 12 are SEC. And so, just in the top 15 alone, Perry, you have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the top 15 teams nationally are SEC teams.
Let's jump right into the midweek games. Let's go to Tuesday, right? And here's one that was the upset. I had texted you and I was talking about it. We didn't see this coming because the last undefeated team in college baseball was the Tennessee Volunteers. They came in looking like perhaps the best team in college baseball. They were number 1 ranked. And then here comes East Tennessee coming in and just with an upset, getting 7-6, beating Tennessee in Knoxville. It was 2-1 early in the first inning with Tennessee up. And then late in this ball game in the ninth inning, East Tennessee finds a way to get 2 runs in and wins this game. They had 10 hits in this ball game to 7 hits to Tennessee, 2 errors for East Tennessee, 1 for Tennessee. But this was a shocker of East Tennessee going into Knoxville, Blue, and knocking off the number one team and the last undefeated team in college baseball, the Tennessee Volunteers.
Uh, Perry, I really do think this was a wake-up call for Tennessee. And also, too, I know people hate the narrative that midweek games matter less than the weekend series, but at the end of the day, they kind of do. And you kind of look at how Tennessee bounced back from that over the weekend, right? Winning their series this weekend after losing that midweek game to ETSU. You got to give ETSU credit though, man. That's a huge win for that program. Because going in, Perry, no one gave them a shot to win that one. I just think they got hot at the right time. And I think for Tennessee, it was a good wake up call, especially. And I would rather have my wake up call, Perry, in my midweek game rather than losing a series on the weekend, getting swept or something like that.
That's it, man. And as we move forward, another one, it was close to what I consider maybe an upset. It was College of Charleston taking on South Carolina. The Gamecocks held on in this one, won it by 1 run. 4-3 was the final in this one, as both these teams traded runs in the seventh inning. South Carolina able to hold on with one more as they put up 3 runs in the seventh to College of Charleston's 2 runs. 10 hits in this ball game for College of Charleston, 2 errors on the other side for the Gamecocks, 7 hits and 2 errors. 4-3 the final score. South Carolina and Palmieri holds on.
Yeah, they needed that one because Perry. I think, like I told you last episode, I think we're gonna get into it when we talk their weekend series. I think it could be a long season for them.
Looking at Florida, they got past Jacksonville 16-4. They needed that much needed victory. Here's another one that caught me by surprise. Midweek game, Murray State versus Kentucky. Murray State puts up 5 runs in this one. They win 5-4 with the Kentucky Wildcats. 9 hits, 0 errors, 9 hits, 0 errors for both teams. Murray State gets it done, knocks off the Wildcats 5-4, man, getting that one run they needed in the top of the eighth inning.
Again, we've talked about Kentucky even on last week's show about how inconsistent they've been throughout a conference play. And I think you saw it rear its ugly head again in that midweek game. And it's kind of leaked over into conference play a little bit as well, where they'll win a game, one game here or something like that, but they haven't consistently been able to put a handful of days together and get one of these series and also to look impressive for multiple games in a row.
Let's go over to Alabama, the state of Alabama, but not the University of Alabama. We'll go to the other school in Alabama that they like to call the Auburn Tigers, right? War Eagle, taking on in-state Alabama State from out the SWAC. Alabama State, and you talked about this one, was going to give Auburn everything they could ask for. And this game went on like this. A lot of runs in this one. 13-9 was the final as Auburn holds on against Alabama State. 13 hits in this ball game for the Tigers, 0 errors. 11 hits on the other side for the Hornets of Alabama State, 0 errors. These teams traded blows, 4 runs back-to-back for both teams in the fourth inning, 2 runs in the seventh inning, and one more in the ninth. But Auburn ultimately able to hold on. And you called us when you said it was going to be tight. The Tigers found a way to get it done over the Hornets.
Yeah, a huge win for Auburn there. I'll say this: I'm gonna give them a nickname later in the show because, man, I don't think this team has won many games comfortably this year, and it looks like they're making a living off of winning these close games and getting it done in the late innings.
Looking at Arkansas against Oral Roberts, this one it was tough early on, but Arkansas holds on 4-1 over Oral Roberts. Looking at Vanderbilt, big win over Belmont, 13-2 over Belmont. Mississippi State taking on Jackson State out of the SWAC, another one of those SWAC SEC midweek games. This one not as close as Alabama State versus Auburn, but Mississippi State finds a way to get it done over Jackson State. Both Mississippi teams 16-3 Bulldogs over the Tigers. Here's one for you, another Mississippi matchup. Looking at Southern Miss, number 19 at the time, Southern Miss versus number 18. Two teams right there in the top 25, knocking at the door, trying to move up. And we talked about Southern Miss last week and the fits that they could give teams across the SEC. And that's exactly what they did to Ole Miss, who was coming off of that weekend series loss to Arkansas. And in this one, Southern Miss finds a way to get it done. 6-2, 7 hits in this ball game, 0 errors for Southern Miss and for Ole Miss and the Rebels. 8 hits, 1 error, 4 runs in the bottom of the fifth inning for Southern Miss, and they hold on 6-2. Shocking or not shocking for you in this one, Blue?
Nah, I don't think it's super shocking. I mean, go back to what you said about Southern Miss. I mean, Perry, that team's creeping into top 10 territory right now nationally. That team is really, really good, and I really do think they can hang with the majority of the SEC teams, man. That team is super talented. I don't think in Perry, I don't think you see the massive divide between the top P4 teams and some of these top G5 teams
Hmm.
in baseball like you do football or maybe even basketball now with NIL, right? I think you've seen in March Madness a lot harder for some of these Cinderella teams to get going because of the talent differential that hasn't necessarily trickled down to baseball yet. And if a team just gets hot with the bats, their pitching staff's playing well, they're not making mistakes out in the field, you can see a team like this get hot. We've seen it year after year where you have everyone gets to the College World Series, right? And they're like, man, how did this team get here? Who is Coastal Carolina? Who is, UC Santa Bartley, whatever it may be. Southern Miss is that team this year. And I think they're making waves, man. They've beaten some really good teams in out of conference play, and it was just another notch in their belt to have get an SEC win over a Ole Miss team, Perry, that is doing pretty well in conference play right now. So I think Southern Miss, that was a big win for them.
Watch out, state of Mississippi, and watch out, college baseball. Southern Miss is on the prowl. Let's go back to Alabama. South Alabama taking on number 12, Alabama. In this one, it was a tight one. Alabama getting it done in extra innings, finding that one run they needed in the 10th, getting it done 6-5, 8 hits for the Crimson Tide in this one, 0 errors. And on the other side for the South Alabama Jaguars, 12 hits, 0 errors. Alabama holds on, 6-5, man.
Hey, it's kind of like the March Madness saying, man, survive in advance. Just get through the midweek games, get to the series. And I think we're gonna have an interesting conversation about Alabama later, man. But listen, they're legit 22-3 right now. They're 12th in the country, so creeping into that top 10 area. And I think Alabama has a chance. They're positioning themselves well to potentially, if they can keep this momentum going, making some waves in the SEC later this season.
Texas A&M run rules. Texas A&M and Corpus Christi in the 7th, 17-7 as we move on. Oklahoma getting a victory over UTA 7-6. This was another one of those close ones, looking at Oklahoma, who was in the top 10, knocking at the door, one of the best teams in the country right now, and then getting pushed by UTA in this one, man. Your thoughts on this one? 7-6. Oklahoma Sooners hold on.
Hey, we kind of both talked about it. I mean, Oklahoma is a team that I think a lot of people are trying to figure out if they're a real contender or not. And they found a way to get that one done. And I think they are starting to kind of find their footing a little bit in the SEC. And they're right there kind of with Alabama. Like in the tier, I would have Alabama in terms of a team that has positioned themselves well to possibly make a run over the last few weeks of the season. But I mean, it's sitting at 20-3 right now and won two in a row so far. So I just think they got to keep the momentum going in the right direction.
Look more, some more midweek games. LSU all over University of New Orleans, UNO 11-1. The Tigers went on to win that one. And here's another upset. UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio, took on the Texas Longhorns over in Austin, Texas, on doing a midweek game. In UTSA, the Roadrunners, getting it done 8-7. This game went back and forth, but in the 6th and the 7th inning, UTSA able to put up 3 runs in the 6th, 2 more in the 7th, and held on as they got it done by 1 run. Listen, it went into extra innings. 10 hits, 1 error for the Roadrunners. On the other side for the Longhorns, 12 hits, 2 errors. Did you see this one coming? The Longhorns falling in a midweek game against UTSA.
I did not see it. I did not. I mean, especially with just how consistent Texas has been over the past few weeks and how good they've looked in conference play. I didn't see them dropping that one. But same thing with Tennessee, man. I think the midweek games mean a little bit less when you're winning your conference series. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. As long as they keep winning those weekend series, they're going to be just fine.
And let's jump into those weekend series. And we had 2 series that started on Thursday, and one of those series was Texas A&M, who we just mentioned, run rule Texas A&M Corpus Christi taking on Vanderbilt. And in game 1 on Thursday, Vanderbilt gets it done 5-3. Vanderbilt puts up 3 runs in the 3rd inning and another one in the 6th to pretty much seal the deal. They had 10 hits, 0 errors. And on the other side for the Aggies, 5 hits, 1 run. Thursday game. Then let's move on to Friday as Texas A&M still could not get anything going, and Vanderbilt found a way to put up 2 runs in the 7th inning to seal the deal as Vanderbilt won that Friday game 3-1 over the Aggies and pretty much went up in this series 2-0. And then you look at finally the final game of the series. Texas A&M still could not get it done. Vanderbilt gets the complete sweep over the Aggies 8-5 up in Nashville in this last game of the series in which Vanderbilt clinched it. 10 hits, 1 error, and on the other side for the Aggies, Blue, 11 hits, 0 errors. Vanderbilt sweeps Texas A&M and finds a way to get all 3.
I don't know about you. This was a big one for Vandy, especially after what happened last week against Auburn. This was a big one. They had to find a way to close this one out, and I like how they responded. They, in my opinion, Perry, they were a team, and I think we talked about it last week, where they were kind of teetering between tiers on where we would put them.
Yep.
And I thought they responded really, really well. Now, do I think Texas A&M is the biggest challenge they're going to have? Probably not. But it was good to see them bounce back after letting that Auburn series slip away from them. So I think this was a big sweep for a big I guess weekend series for Vandy to win.
Texas A&M now goes to 11-12 on the season, 0-6 Blue in conference play. For Vanderbilt, who came into this series as the number 22 ranked team in the nation, they move on to be 19-5. They're 4-2 overall in conference play. Here's a big one over in Tuscaloosa. We talked about this game last week. This was one of the ones to circle. Number 1, Tennessee, coming in after that midweek loss against Eastern Tennessee. East Tennessee, who gave them their first loss on the season. And they come on to take in number 12, Alabama. And guess what? The loss continued. The losing continued. They dropped 2 back-to-back losses. Now this time to Alabama. Alabama holds on 6-5. Tennessee fought back in the 7th inning, putting up 2 runs, but just not enough, as Alabama was able to put up 5 runs in the second and hold on to win this 6-5. 6 hits, 2 errors for the Crimson Tide in this one in game 1 on Thursday. And for the Volunteers, 9 hits, 1 error. Alabama gets game 1 on Thursday. Then we move over to Friday. Tennessee gets back on track. They win it 10-7, 11 hits, 2 errors for the Volunteers. On the other side for the Crimson Tide, 12 hits, 1 error. This one went back and forth, but 5 runs been able to put up on the scoreboard in the first and the second inning for Tennessee as they hold on and tied the series 1-1, and then it came down to the last game, and Tennessee found a way to pull it out 9-2 over Alabama. For the Volunteers in this one, 15 hits, 1 error. The Crimson Tide in this one, 6 hits, 0 error. And it was a hitting clinic basically for Tennessee as they put up 2 runs in the 3rd inning and another 4 in the 7th inning. Tennessee, although having a 2-game losing streak to East Tennessee and then looking at coming in with an opening series loss to Alabama, found a way to close out and win the series, Blue 2-1.
Yeah, huge bounce back, man. Because they could have got with back-to-back losses, especially with the one to ETSU, right? They could have got out of hand, and you could have dropped a very, very important series. And I think the way they bounced back over the weekend is the biggest reason why you saw Tennessee stay at number 1 in the top 25 was their ability to bounce back. And I think that they're showing those flashes of why they're the best. I think they're the best team in the country. Also, too, Gavin Killen, I believe it's Killen.
Mm-hmm.
That kid's a baller, man. I think he's batting 431 this year. I want to say he's 4th in the SEC with 10 home runs. And then on top of that, too, you got a guy like Liam Doyle leads the SEC with 62 strikeouts this year, Perry. This team's got pitching, and also too, Liam Doyle's 3rd, 2.03 ERA, and Marcus Phillips leads the SEC with a 1.17 ERA. They got pitching. They got hitting. The biggest thing for them, Perry, is just to stay locked in, right? Because when they're locked in, they're the best team in the country. But you did see if they just don't show up, they can be beaten. That's the biggest thing for Tennessee is, man, just establishing that consistency, man. But I think again, I know they lost two in a row from the midweek to the first game of that series. Perry, I still am confident saying they're the best team in the country right now.
No doubt about it. Last week we were saying, was it default for every team who has to see Tennessee, where when they took an L, it was just like, well, it was Tennessee, which, they showed that they were beatable this week. And just as much as we was praising them, saying it was Tennessee, they showed they are human. They do bleed. And we saw them bleed twice this week. And now, hey, even looking back at this game, Alabama coach getting heated with the umpires in this one, man. This game, you could feel the intensity of both these teams in this matchup.
Yeah, and you love to see it, right? I know, obviously, I'm sure I saw a lot of Bama fans, and I think we're going to get into another game that got a little heated as well this weekend. But for Bama fans, that I think they were just happy to kind of get out of that series. But you like to see it, man. I think it's a rivalry at the end of the day, right? That rivalry kind of carries over from football, and I still think if you're Bama, you did show that you can compete, on any given day with a team like Tennessee. It's just you got to put together a full weekend, man. Because if you let up, Tennessee can light up the scoreboard, man, with the quickness, and it get really out of hand. So I think Bama's still in a good position, man. I'm not worried about Alabama. Came into the year, kind of one of those like borderline top 25 teams, still sitting at 22-3, 4-2 in conference. I think they're going to be just fine.
Tennessee, you speaking about Alabama, moves on 22-2, 5-1 in conference play overall. Let's look at Auburn. Number 20, Auburn taking on Kentucky. We saw Kentucky drop their midweek game. Auburn gets game one of the series on Friday, 8-7. These two teams went back and forth. 4 runs between the second and the third inning for the Wildcats. 3 in the 6th inning for Auburn, and another 2 in the 9th as they hold on with 8 hits, 0 errors, 13 hits on the other side for the Wildcats, and 1 error. Auburn wins game 1. Looking at Saturday, Auburn wins game 2, 8-7, a lot closer than we saw in game 1. But listen, same score, so I guess it was closer. But
Yeah.
Kentucky fought back in the 8th inning, putting up 4 runs, trying to get everything they could. Kentucky in this one, 10 hits, 3 errors on the other side for Auburn Tigers, 14 hits, 1 error. Auburn then goes up 2-0 in this series, and guess what? They dropped game 3. Kentucky able to steal that last one 6-0 as Kentucky put up 5 runs in the first inning, another one in the 7th. Six hits in this ball game for the Wildcats, 0 errors on the other side. Auburn only 2 hits in this ball game, Blue, 0 errors in that third game. Kentucky able to get that one, but Auburn wins the series 2-1 as the top 25 team over the Kentucky Wildcats.
Listen, man, the cardiac kids, that like this Auburn team just consistently seems to find a way to win these close games, Perry. And that's a scary team. And I think that's an important trait to have in a league so competitive, right? Because every game's going to be competitive and that close. And I think the experience that Auburn's getting, winning these close games, even in the midweek, is going to be invaluable down the stretch. And I think you kind of look at how that team's trending, right? The biggest thing I'm looking at as well is, man, one close victory coincidence, right? And Perry, just to make a connection to football, that's how I felt about Southern this year. One close game, a fluke, right?
Just hold
Maybe you just got
on,
lucky.
baby.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4 close wins. Okay, it's becoming a trend now. That's a quality and trait of this team. And Perry, you look up, right? This team wasn't top 25 coming into the season. Perry, they're sitting at 11th in the country right now. The expectations are starting to build. It's going to be very interesting to see if Butch Thompson and these Tigers can live up to those expectations, because it's easy to sneak up on people, Perry, with no preseason expectations. Is Auburn now able to deliver? Because I think they've worked their way into that kind of like high tier 3, potentially low tier 2 in the SEC. How competitive are they going to be against the Tennessees, the Arkansas, the Georgias, the Texas, LSU? That's going to be the next test for Auburn. And over the next few weeks, I think they got a few series that is really going to put this team to the test. And we're going to find out exactly where I think we should have Auburn in in terms of tiers in the SEC, because they got some massive series coming up, starting next week on the road against Georgia in a tough midweek game against South Alabama, who just gave Alabama a run for their money. And then the next week they get Alabama in Auburn. Those next 2 series are massive for the Tigers.
I'll be interested to see where Auburn ends up right now. They move on at 19-5 on the season. They're 4-2 in conference playing on the other side. Kentucky Wildcats, 15-7 on the season, 2-4 in conference play. Then we move on to the other series I wanted to circle, because I was saying, was Florida just that bad, or was Georgia starting to really be just that good? And in game 1, number 4, Georgia taking on number 13, Florida, 8-7 in game 1 as the Bulldogs hold on. 9 hits, 1 error for the Bulldogs, and on the other side for the Gators, 7 hits, 1 error. 4 runs put up in the second inning for the Bulldogs, 3 in the first, and both teams traded back and forth. But to win it for the Georgia Bulldogs, they put up 2 runs in the 9th inning, and they hold on to win game 1 on the road down in Gainesville, Florida, against the Gators. Then we go into game 2, and this one got out of hand and got out of hand real fast. 17-2 as the Georgia Bulldogs put up 16 hits in this one, 0 errors. The Gators, 7 hits, 0 errors, only able to muster up 2 runs in this ball game for Florida. 1 run in the 6th, another run in the 7th, and for Georgia, they just pretty much any inning, you just throw out a number, and they busted wide open in the 9th inning, pretty much putting up 6 runs. They go up 2-0 in the series, and then they close it out with an even bigger victory on game 3, 15-4, as the Georgia Bulldogs put up 13 hits, 0 errors for the Gators, 5 hits, 0 errors, 6 hits, 6 runs in the 6th inning to add another 2 as they close this thing out in the 7th inning. The Georgia Bulldogs close it out big over Florida and win the weekend series and sweep them down in Gainesville 3-0.
I'm just convinced at this point, Perry. I just don't think Florida's a very good team.
I think we see it now. I was holding on
Yeah.
faith. I think we see it now.
Like, I even saw some power rankings come out this week that still had Florida over teams like Auburn and stuff. I don't believe it. At some point, you just got to believe when teams show you who they are. 0-6 in the SEC right now, Perry.
Yeah.
18-8 overall. Until Florida wins a series against a good team, I'm gonna need to see a little bit more. Just me personally, right? And something's off with this Florida team, man. And I think between them and A&M, man, those are 2 of the bigger disappointments in college baseball this year. I mean, Perry, A&M came into the season ranked number 1 nationally and are sitting there struggling right now in the SEC 0-6. And Florida, a consensus, I want to say top 10 team coming into the season, also sitting at 0-6. So I think there's either going to be a reality check wake up call coming for the Gators, or it's going to be a long season in the SEC.
Yeah, winless in the SEC, as you said, 0-6 for the Georgia Bulldogs. They improved to 24-2 and 5-1 in conference play. Then we move over to Ole Miss, number 18, coming into this ball game against a struggling Missouri Tigers team who had just come off that weekend series against LSU and gave LSU some tight ones, right? But just couldn't get it done. And they couldn't get it done moving on against the Rebels as Ole Miss get game 1, 9-6, 12 hits in game 1 for the Rebels, with three errors on the other side for the Tigers. 8 hits, 1 error in game 1. Then we move over to game 2, Missouri. This one looked like this was old SEC football Saturday score. 17-10 was the final in this one, as Ole Miss was able to get it done. Put up 16 hits in this one. The Tigers of Missouri, 11 hits. And then we look at game 3, another football score. 14-6, Ole Miss closes this thing out. 3-0 sweep over the Missouri Tigers as they continue to struggle. Missouri 8-14 on the season, 0-6 in conference play. The Rebels 18-5, 4-2, shaking back after that midweek loss to Southern Miss.
Not a surprise here. I really don't have much to say about this series, Perry. I think we're going to get to a point on this show where we can just say, yep, who did Missouri play? Did they win
I hate to
2-1
do my
or
man
3-0?
Coach Jackson like that. I hate to do him like
Oh no, I'm with you. I listen, love him as a great person. This team just is not it. Perry, we're talking about the deepest conference in college
that.
baseball right now. It's gonna be a headache of a season, in my opinion.
Yeah, when you're looking at Missouri and the depth, especially the pitching, I mean, this team struggled. They lost, as I said, I go back and look at Vero Beach, Florida, down at the Andre Dawson Invitational. They lost to SWAC, Alabama State, right? Had a tough time in that invitation. And then as they get into conference play, 0-6 right now. They need the depth, but most importantly, talking to Coach Jackson, they need the investment into that Missouri baseball program. They do not have quite the same investment that you look at around the rest of the conference when you look at some of these other programs who have taken baseball to the next level, and you've seen it year in and year out in the SEC. I'm curious to see moving into the future, where does Missouri then place when you look at priority in baseball in the line of a basketball team who just went to the NCAA tournament, a football team who has been pretty well since joining, been doing pretty well since joining the SEC. Now, where does baseball fit itself in a conference where everybody else is elevating? When you look at those other sports, does Missouri then invest into its baseball and try to get them on par with the rest of the conference?
You got to. Hey, money talks, and in today's age of college athletics, especially in the SEC, you're either gonna have to pay up or you're gonna get left behind. And like you said, I think when you look at, I think it was really, that Tennessee, LSU, Mississippi State, the money that those programs started to invest into baseball really, really changed the game. And I think you're just now seeing, let's be honest, you're just now seeing that same level of investment from schools like Georgia, Auburn,
Yeah.
Alabama, and they were a little bit later to the party, but it's causing the entire conference to have to get to that level, or they're just not going to be able to win anything.
Yeah, you're right. We move on to another series. Mississippi State taking on Oklahoma over in Norman, Oklahoma. Mississippi State gets game one over the number 10 Oklahoma Sooners 2-1 as they were able to trade blows back and forth in the seventh inning, but it was just not enough as Mississippi State had that one run in the first inning to hold on 2-1. Then that is the opening game of the series. Mississippi State goes up 1-0. Then we look at game two. Here we go with another football sport. Hey, we see the runs being put up into this conference, man. The bats are flying. 13-11 is the final score in game two as Oklahoma put up 5 runs in the first inning and added another 5 in the second and the third to go up 10-5 as Mississippi State put up 5 and 4 in the third and the fourth inning. So going back and forth, trading blow for blow, but nonetheless, Oklahoma able to get it done 13-11, tying this series up. And then we get into the last and final game in which Oklahoma closed it out 7-3. 3 runs in the sixth inning pretty much sealed the deal. 7 hits in this one for the Sooners, 1 error. And on the other side for the Bulldogs of Mississippi State, 8 hits, 2 errors. Oklahoma holds on, closes the series out, and wins it 2-1 after falling in game one. But nonetheless, we're talking about Oklahoma once again. Here they are after a close midweek game with UTA, a close one with Mississippi State, but finding a way to get a W.
A massive, massive series win for them. And Perry, you're sitting there looking at them 20-3 now, top 10 of the nation. This team's got some talent, man. This team's, and listen, I really, really like Witherspoon. Perry, he is first in the league, 5 wins this year already, 1.8 ERA, 58 strikeouts this year already.
Woo!
That's your ace
Add
right
those
there,
K's
man.
up, baby.
Yes, and then also too, the thing that separates them is, Perry, they have 2 players in the in the top 5 of the SEC in stolen bases. Kyle Branch and Dawson Willis both with 10 stolen bases already this year. So this team's super, super talented, man. It's almost kind of like I look at, we're going to get into, kind of the tier list, the top 5 teams in the SEC at the end of the show. They're right there, man. If they can get one of these series over like a Tennessee, a Georgia, an Arkansas or something, Oklahoma enters the realm of a team that could win this conference this year and really make some waves in the postseason. And I've been extremely impressed with what I've seen from Oklahoma this year. One of the bigger surprises in the conference, especially year one in the SEC.
Year one in the SEC, and the Sooners currently right now at the week 2 of conference play, 4-2 in conference play. Mississippi State goes to 15-9 overall, 1-5 in conference play. Here's a weekend series. Paul Maneri taking on Coach Van Horn. Arkansas Razorbacks, the number 3 team in the nation, taking on South Carolina. Arkansas gets it done in game one, 12-2, putting up 4 runs in the third inning, another 5 in the seventh as they hold on to win game one, 12-2. Then we move on to game 2. Another big one, 12-3 in this one. 8 runs in the first inning for the Razorbacks as they added another 2 to go up 10-3 in the third inning, and they hold on and also put up 13 hits in this one. And then we go to game 3. The Razorbacks found a way to close it out over Palminteri and the Gamecocks. 11-4, 7 more runs put up in the 8th inning. Arkansas moves on to 5-1 in conference play. South Carolina 1-5 in conference play. Razorbacks did what they need to do after coming off that close one last week in that weekend series against Ole Miss. This week they handled business against South Carolina.
One of the hottest teams in the country, man. What's that, 7 in a row for Arkansas right now?
Getting it done.
Hey, 23-2. They've kind of solidified themselves, in my opinion, as probably the second best team in the conference. I think they were second in the updated top 25 as well. This team's really, really good, Perry. I've been extremely impressed with the Razorbacks. Aloy and 10 home runs this year, man. The kid's bat is just electric, and I think Arkansas is going to be a team that's going to be a very interesting team to watch in the postseason. And I look at Tennessee, and I would say this. And I said it last week. I'd be kind of shocked if they didn't make a run to the College World Series. Arkansas is kind of creeping in that conversation for me. If they can stay healthy and they can stay consistent, this is going to be a really really tough team to beat week in and week out.
And that's been one of the things for Razorback fans looking at this program, right? Year in and year out, Coach Van Horn has had this program ready to rock and roll. They have come up short in the SEC baseball tournament, but yet they get into the regional. They found themselves in the College Baseball World Series, but it has been the expectations are up high. But this program has not seemed to get over the hurdle like you've seen many other programs in the conference by bringing home a national title. I think at some point the Razorback fans are like, hey, when are we going to get it? Because the frustration grew last year as this team kind of underachieved to where they could go. And it's kind of seemed to be that each and every year where it seems like this is the year, but yet they find themselves watching another team hoist up the College World Series trophy and winning it all. And I think Razorback fans are getting to the point, especially when you're looking at the rate that they're winning games and how they're winning games coming into this season, you have to suspect or expect at some point that the Razorback fans feel that this team is championship worthy this year.
Yeah, and that's an understandable feeling, right? Because it's one thing to consistently get to the big game, but it's a different thing to win it.
Yeah,
And I think there's plenty of examples we can use right across all these different sports about fan bases being, annoyed in the midst of March Madness. Tennessee's one of those programs, right? What do you hear about Rick Barnes all the time? Rick Barnes can get you to the Elite Eight, Perry, get you to the Sweet 16, but he can't get you to that elusive Final Four national championship. And so I think Arkansas, it could be a year, Perry, where you look at this team and it's like if we don't win the national championship this year, what, what do we have to do? What on this team is not national championship ready, and what is preventing us from winning that national championship? Because it's like we're loving the trips to Omaha, but it'd be really really nice to end my trip to Omaha with a trophy.
that's it. And I think that's what the Razorback fans will really want. And considering the way the Razorbacks playing right now, one of the top teams in the country, knocking on the door right there with Tennessee. And then we look at the other top team in the country. And this one was probably the series of the weekend. LSU on the road over in Austin, Texas, taking on the Texas Longhorns, number 2 versus number 8 in this one. Two big programs in this one. LSU getting it done in game one, 8-2 over Texas as LSU put up 4 runs between the 4th and the 5th inning, and then to add on another 4 in the 7th inning to hold on. They had 13 hits, 1 error in this one, and for the Longhorns, 8 hits, 0 errors. LSU took game 1, and then in game 2, this one went back and forth. Hey, this was a tough one late. The pitching for LSU really started to fall apart around the 7th inning as the Longhorns were able to put up 2 runs in the 7th and another 3 in the 8th. And guess what? Texas then ties this series up and holds on to win 11-7, putting up 13 hits and 1 error in this one for the Longhorns. And for the Tigers, 9 hits, 1 error. Longhorns win game 2, 11-7, and tie the series up. And then we get to game 3, much anticipated. Who's going to win this one? Who's going to take the series? And at home, the Texas Longhorns get it done 6-2. They hit 11 hits in this ball game, 1 error, and on the other side for the Tigers, 7 hits, 1 error in this one. Texas started this thing out early, putting on a run in the first inning, and added another 2 in the second inning, adding another one in the 6th as LSU put up their only 2 runs in the ball game in the 6th inning. Man, in a series of 2-story programs that know what it means in terms of tradition and history of championships, the Texas Longhorns hold it down in their first time in the SEC, taking on this LSU team. They get it done in their first ever series in conference play with the Tigers and the Longhorns. 2-1 overall. Longhorns win it. Man, this was shocking. I'm not even gonna lie. I thought LSU could get it done. We knew Texas was good, but this just a tough place to have to go to Austin, Texas, and have to come out of there with a victory against the Longhorns.
And that's the thing, man. Sometimes it's huge to have that home field advantage, right? And also too, I think Texas delivered at some crucial moments as well, right? We got to give them their credit. And I think multiple things can be true at once, right? I still think LSU is a really good team. And I still think they're a top 5 team. I know they dropped, I think it was number 8 in the top 25. I still think they're a top five team in college baseball, and I still think they're one of the favorites to get to the College World Series and possibly win that thing. But sometimes, man, it's tough. And at the end of the day, we see this in college basketball all the time. It's tough to go win on the road. There's a
And for
reason why.
me,
Go
looking at
ahead.
LSU, their bullpen was giving them problems this weekend against Texas, man. You just kept seeing having to go and bring another guy out, just trying to keep arms going. The bullpen just really seemed to give them a problem this weekend against the Longhorns.
Yeah, and also too, because I think the biggest thing is I think the I guess the starters, the top of that pitching rotation is really good, right? Where with Anderson, was it Chase Shores? Those guys are great. I mean, I think they've combined for like 9 wins, both ranked top five in strikeouts in the league. But I just think it's the depth of the pitching rotation right now. I think a lot of those guys in the middle of that rotation are still trying to find their footing. And I think if LSU figures it out, right, they're going to be a scary team. I just think right now they're trying to get that experience up. They're trying to get the reps up, and they're trying to figure out their identity in that pitching rotation. And I think it's better to have that problem now than it will be if they can figure it out before we get closer to the end of the season. I think they're going to be just okay. And also, too, at the end of the day, Perry, they lost 2-1 to a really really good Texas team on the road. If that series flips back to Baton Rouge, what? I'll be confident to say they probably win that 2-1, right? And so I think you're okay. You lost to a top 10 team in the country. I think it's going to be just okay. I would say don't hit the panic button, LSU, but this was a signature win for Texas. We talk about Oklahoma making waves in the conference, Perry. Texas and Oklahoma really doing their best, man, to make an impact year one in the SEC. I've been impressed with both of those teams.
You're right about that. LSU goes to 22-3 on the season, 4-2 in conference play. And for the Longhorns, they improved to 19-3, 5-1 in conference play. And what a way for them to shake back after that midweek loss to University of Texas San Antonio, showing and flexing that muscle. Year one in the conference, getting the job done over LSU. And the Tiger fans were not happy about that this week. All right, before we get into the power ranking and we look around, let's look at some midweek games that's coming up. And you talk to me about them. You got a University of West Georgia taking on Georgia. West Georgia comes into this ball game at Athens, 13-9 on the season, 4-2 in conference play. Georgia right now, top five team, 24-2, 5-1. What you see in this one?
Yeah, go ahead and give me Georgia.
Go ahead and get you Georgia. Here's another midweek game that I think is looking forward to, and they need a win bad. Florida taking on in-state rival Florida State out of the ACC. What you think about this? Is Florida just
Florida State by a lot. Florida
oh?
State is probably, I would say this, Florida State is probably the best team that's not in the SEC this year.
It's going to be a tough one for the Gators. You're looking at Xavier versus Kentucky. Xavier comes in 11-13. Kentucky 15-7, 2-4. Kind of struggled in SEC play, but still it's SEC. What you see is Xavier versus Kentucky.
I like Kentucky in this one, man. Give me Kentucky with a big midweek
We
win.
got to slow down with some of these midweek games too, because when we see these names, we like, hey, it's SEC. I'm getting a little nervous in
Hey,
some of these. And look at this one.
to be fair, we were really, really good on the upset picks last week, and on top of that, which teams could be on upset alert.
We were looking at some upset alerts, weren't we?
Yeah, we were good. Hey, the two Alabama schools, man. Listen, they were tight there for a minute.
We got Samford on the road going over to Starkville, taking on Mississippi State. Samford is 13-11, 1-2 on the season. Mississippi State, who has struggled in SEC play so far, 1-5 in conference play, 15-9. Is this one of those ones we're talking?
Yeah, this one worries me a little bit. This was one of the ones I was looking at as a potential upset, but I do think Mississippi State squeaks it out. I'm talking about like a 1-point win, but I think Sanford gives them a run for their money.
How about this one? The Battle of the Carolinas, Palmetary in South Carolina, 17-8, 1-5 in conference play, taking on ACC North Carolina. What do you think about this matchup?
Uh, I'm gonna go ahead and go North Carolina on this one.
Are you
I think
not believing in Palmetary and the Gamecocks?
no, and North Carolina's top 25 team in the country right now. They get it at home. I think South Carolina falls in the midweek.
Here we go with another Texas midweek game. Houston Christian coming into this ball game, 14-7 overall, 7-2 in conference play, taking on Texas A&M, who is winless so far in SEC play. You said preseason number one. They're 11-12, one game below 500, man. What do you see in this one? Is this one of those ones? They run rule Texas A&M Corpus Christi to make themselves feel good. Does this look like another run rule to make themselves feel good in a midweek game against Houston Christian?
Yeah, go ahead and give me A&M. I don't trust Houston Christian to pull this one off. If they lose to Houston Christian, we're gonna have a whole different conversation.
Oh yeah, we definitely gonna have all. We're starting the show out with Texas A&M next
Yeah,
week. Here's another.
we're
Huh?
talking about how there needs to be a coaching change or something. I mean, good
The
lord.
money is there. Eastern Kentucky on the road, going up to Nashville, taking on Vanderbilt. Eastern Kentucky struggling on the season, 4-20 overall. They're 3-3 in conference play, taking on Vanderbilt, who's 19-5, 4-2 in conference play. What do you think about the Commodores in this one?
Yeah, go ahead and give me the Commodores to extend that win streak.
Here's one. Circle it, watch it. Auburn taking on South Alabama. Auburn 19-5 on the season, 4-2. South Alabama in the midweek game last week gave the University of Alabama everything they could want. Alabama held off by one run to get it. But in this midweek game, Auburn versus South Alabama, man, what you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the cardiac kids to give me another heart attack and get me a close win. I'm thinking like 7-6, something like that.
And Auburn is on the road in this one, so this will be at South
No,
Alabama.
neutral site.
Neutral site. What is this at
Yeah,
Montgomery?
Montgomery. Auburn always plays a series like the Riverwalk Classic or something. They'll play in I think it's at the old Trash Panda
Mm-hmm.
Stadium or something like that. They always play. They always play a few series, and usually it's Alabama. But I guess this year it's South, so they'll play. It's like the Riverwalk Classic in Montgomery.
This should be interesting for the home state of Alabama to watch South Alabama versus Auburn. Here's one. Missouri State on the road taking on Arkansas. Missouri State 10-12 overall, 3-0 in conference play, taking on the top-ranked team, the Razorbacks, right there knocking on the door with Tennessee. Is like what and what? Razorbacks 23-2 on the season, 5-1 in conference play. Do you think Missouri State can go up to Arkansas and give them fits?
No, I'm gonna go ahead and take Arkansas on this one. I think Missouri State still. Yeah, I just don't. I trust them. Look, they're doing really, really well in conference play, but it's a different beast when it's Arkansas.
Battle of bordering states. Missouri taking on Illinois. Illinois coming out of the Big Ten. Missouri 8-13 on the season, 0-6 in conference play. Where do we go with this one? Illinois versus Missouri.
I'm gonna go Illinois.
You going to Illinois?
Yeah, me personally, I have not much faith in Missouri right now. Now, Illinois is not great. I want to say what they're 12-9 right now, 2-4 in conference. But out of conference play, they've lost to Texas. That's the only other SEC team they've played. But I'm gonna go ahead and go with Illinois over Missouri.
Come on, Missouri Tigers. I'm pulling for you this midweek game. I'm going to go Missouri. They need something to bounce back, man. And this would be one that they need to bounce back in a border rivalry game with Illinois. Then you're looking at Oklahoma versus Oral Roberts. Oklahoma 20-3 on the season, 4-2 in conference play. Oral Roberts 15-8, 4-2. Oral Roberts last week were on the road with their midweek game against Arkansas. This week, they have Oklahoma. You like the Sooners a lot so far. What do you think about the Sooners in this midweek game with Oral Roberts?
I think this could be upset alert. And
Ooh.
I really liked Tennessee last week too, Perry.
Ooh.
And we saw what happened. I think this is a team that could be that could be sneaky, right? I mean, listen, they gave Arkansas the solid run for their money earlier this year, 1-4, and they got run ruled the next game. So, it was kind of iffy on that Tuesday game. But I think this could be upset alert. Plus, Oral Roberts gets this one at home, which is
Yeah.
very interesting. This will be my upset pick of the week. How about that? I'll go Oral Roberts over
I
Oklahoma.
think Tulsa, Oklahoma will be packed full of Sooner fans for this ball game. Then we look at Alabama taking on North Alabama. Alabama going on the road to Huntsville to take on North Alabama. The Crimson Tide 22-3 on the season, 4-2 in conference play, taking on North Alabama. What you think about this one for the Crimson Tide on the road?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take Alabama on this one.
Memphis taking on Ole Miss. Both teams programs not too far from each other. Memphis 11-12 on the season, 0-3 in conference play, taking on Ole Miss, who is 17-5, 3-2 in conference play. Remember, this is the same Ole Miss team who lost to Southern Miss, but I ain't saying Memphis and Southern Miss the same because they are not. But what do you like about this one? Oxford, Mississippi, the Memphis Tigers coming down to take on the Ole Miss Rebels.
I'll take Ole Miss to
You
bounce
sound a
back.
little reluctant,
Not
like,
confident. Yeah, not super confident in it, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Here's another Texas matchup. Sam Houston taking on the Texas Longhorns. Sam Houston 7-17 on the season, 1-2 in conference play. Then the Longhorns coming off the big weekend series over LSU. They're 19-3, 5-1. Man, should I ask you who you got?
Yeah, I'll take LSU.
It's Texas. This is
Oh,
Texas.
my bad. I was looking at the wrong game. Yeah, I'll take Texas and Sam Houston. And just for future reference, I'll take LSU over Louisiana Lafayette too.
And that's the next one and the last one of the midweek game I got for you on Tuesday. UL Lafayette, they're 11-14 on the season, 3-3 in conference play, taking on LSU, who's trying to reel back from that weekend series loss against Texas. They're 22-3 on the season, 4-2. You've already said it. You're rolling with who?
Yeah, I'm gonna get them
Them
Tigers.
Tiger fans probably love you right there for that one, as LSU will shake back. Hey, we got some Thursday midweek games, Thursday series games starting off with Mississippi State on the road, coming to Baton Rouge against LSU. And then you got Florida versus Ole Miss. What do you like in those two matchups coming up with those Thursday games starting for those weekend series?
Yeah, yeah, very interesting Thursday matchups, man. Florida Ole Miss, man. You want to talk about a must win? If Florida does not get a game in this series, Perry, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what their. I just don't know what their season outlook is. But it's going to be tough, man, on the road too in Oxford, right? That's just so tough to win on the road in this league. I like Ole Miss to get this first game, and then the other one, I think Mississippi State needs to get one, but I think LSU is going to be pissed off, motivated. They're back in Baton Rouge. I like LSU in that one.
Oh, and the Tiger fans are going to be loud as they can be. I'll be at that series this weekend for the LSU Mississippi State game. So you going LSU in that weekend series?
Yeah, I'll take LSU 2-1 in that
And what
series.
you got in Florida versus Ole Miss?
I'll take Ole Miss 2-1. I think Florida gets them one.
I'm gonna go LSU. I think LSU sweeps Mississippi State. I think they get
Ooh.
all three. I think coming after that game against Texas, the Tiger fans gonna really want it. I think Mississippi State probably push them in game one. But I'm gonna go LSU all three. They have to flex and get back on track. And I think going up 7-2 in conference play after the weekend would be really good. And I'm going to go with this one. I think Florida shakes back against Ole Miss. They dropped 2 consecutive series. They need this one. I think Florida gets it done, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. The Gator fans, I'm going out on a limb for you. I think you get it done against the Rebels. I think you get that series 2-1 against Ole Miss. All right, here's another one. Auburn versus Georgia. First pitch is going to be on Friday. What do you like about Auburn and Georgia battle of top 225 teams? Matter of fact, I guess would this be a top 10 matchup this week?
Top 11. Top 11 matchup this week. I'll say this. I think this is a massive test for Auburn, right? Because I think they're falling into that category where they're working their way up into that top, quarter of the SEC. They're going to like this is going to be a massive test on the road in Athens. I don't love the whole cardiac kid thing they're doing right now, especially on the road against a really good team like Georgia. I do think Auburn's good enough to get one of them, but I'm going to take Georgia winning the series 2-1.
I'm with you after watching Georgia just whoop Florida's ass the way that they did with those football scores. I'm going Georgia big in this one. I'm with you 2-1 in this one. I think Auburn fights, and this is going to be one of those first series that we're talking about with Auburn. As who are they really? Are they really a legit contender in this conference? And I think this series right now, with Georgia coming up this weekend, to be their first eye-opening test for all of us to look at them and say, okay, where do they stack up when you start to look at the upper echelon of the conference? They're working their way up, but can they compete? And I think for Georgia, this is Georgia's opportunity to flex his muscle and say, I do deserve and do belong to be in the top conversation of the top teams in this conference.
Yeah, but if Georgia finds a way to get a sweep and wins dominantly, that's that. I mean, dude, that is a massive, massive win for them, and I think it kind of puts them into a different realm of conversation where we kind of look at them as someone who could potentially go on and win this conference.
There's another matchup right here that I really do like, and I think all eyes need to be on this one. We talked about Oklahoma. We've talked about Alabama. Alabama stole game one against Tennessee and fell short in the last two. Oklahoma has continued to turn heads since starting SEC play. A battle of Oklahoma and Alabama. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, for the second consecutive weekend is going to host a pretty big game that means something in the SEC. What do you like in Oklahoma and Alabama in this matchup?
Again, this is to me maybe not. I don't want to be so absolute, like talking about this, but I do think this could be a matchup that really determines which team is a true contender and which one might just be a good team in the league, right? And I do think getting this series in Tuscaloosa is big for Alabama. But if I look at how these teams are trending, I do like Oklahoma a bit more. I'll take Oklahoma 2-1 over Bama on the road.
Ooh, I'm gonna go the opposite way with you. After seeing Alabama last week against Tennessee, and once again, we say, man, it was Tennessee. This is going to be a tough one for Oklahoma. I'm going to go Alabama in this one 2-1. I think the Crimson Tide hold it down at home in Tuscaloosa. I think if it was the other way around over in Norman, I think I would probably swing more to Oklahoma. But I think Alabama holds it down, and considering what they saw last week against Tennessee, I'm not going to put that on them with Oklahoma. Every series is different, but I think Alabama right now has been battle tested. I think Alabama can hold it down at home and get it done. I'm going to go Alabama 2-1 in this one, Blue, against
I
Oklahoma.
like it.
All right. Well, here we go. I don't get much excitement when I talk about the Missouri Tigers baseball team, but I have to. Weekend series against Texas, who's coming off the big series victory this past weekend over LSU. Do you see Missouri? Let's just put it like this. Do Missouri even win one in this one?
I I don't think so. Go ahead and give me Texas for the sweep on the road.
I'm with you, Texas, all three with sweep on the road. Palmetary in South Carolina, going to be at home in Columbia, South Carolina this weekend, hosted. Here we go. It's Tennessee. The Volunteers come in with one conference loss, of course, losing game one in that 3-game series against Alabama, but now taking on Palmetary in South Carolina. It's Tennessee. It's Tennessee. What do we have here?
I'm gonna go Tennessee 2-1. I think South Carolina sneaks one out on them. Maybe the
Really?
Sunday game. I think Sunday games where I kind of see that one. I think Tennessee wins the first two. South Carolina sneaks around, gets that Sunday game.
I'm going Tennessee all three, man. Paul Maneri and South Carolina, the Gamecocks are not ready with what's about to come in town. I think the Tennessee Volunteers give them everything they want and more that they cannot handle. Home runs all over the place for this one. Listen, Gamecock fans, get your gloves ready in the outfield. The home runs are coming to you. I think Tennessee gets them and gets them big in this one, man. I'm going Tennessee all three. I don't see South, especially did we just see what South Carolina gave up against Arkansas in terms of runs and hits. I'm going Tennessee big. I think the bats fly all weekend for Tennessee in this one. Kentucky, Texas A&M, Kentucky has an opportunity to go to College Station, and can they really put Texas A&M to bed? As Texas A&M is 0-6 in conference play. We talked about it, preseason number one. Now they below 500 overall, and Kentucky kind of just staggering along, but nonetheless, can they go in and really start to put those nails in the coffin on the Aggies in Texas A&M?
Oh, this is gonna be my bold pick of the week.
When I
I
hear you hit
think
me with
eight.
that, oh, I already know.
I I think eight. Give me A&M 2-1. I think they get their first series win this week.
I'm with you. I'm not impressed by Kentucky by far whatsoever. I think if A&M ever needed a series more than ever, right now, this is a good series against Kentucky to shake them back. I'm with you. I take A&M 2-1 over Kentucky. I think Kentucky probably sneaks out that Sunday game. A&M has to come in strong and start this one and win those first two games to build some confidence about themselves in conference play, because right now, 0-6, all eyes are right now looking over it in Aggie land over in College Station, because we're all asking the question, what the hell is going on with Texas A&M, and why aren't they living up to the expectation right now, being winless in conference play so far after 2 weekends?
Yeah, a massive series for them, man. Like this is the definition of a must-win series, and I don't even know if the postseason is necessarily salvageable for them, but it's just for like the respect of the program.
They need some respect put on their name, and by how you get that, you go and win games, Blue. And they need that one against Kentucky. Last game of the weekend series is going to be Arkansas on the road in Nashville, Tennessee, taking on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt 4-2 in conference play. Arkansas 5-1. We have known Vanderbilt in the past to be a top contending team in this conference. Arkansas is knocking on the door this year saying, look, we are a top contending team. The Razorbacks on the road at Vanderbilt. How do you see this thing shaping out? I think this is going to be a really damn good series between these two ball clubs, the Commodores and the Razorbacks.
Really, really good series. One of the more intriguing ones. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say this: Arkansas 2-1. I do think Vandy's good enough to get one, especially since it's at home. But I think Arkansas is too complete, and I think Arkansas. I think they split the first two games. Arkansas complete gets the series on Sunday.
Arkansas makes me nervous, right? They held on against Ole Miss. They got it done against South Carolina. But this one makes me nervous. And Razorback fans know what I'm talking about. That certain nervousness of, okay, Coach Van Horn, what you going to give us this weekend? And in this one, I'm a little nervous having to go on the road, taking on Vanderbilt. I think Arkansas is good enough, no doubt about it, to get it done. And I'm going to go with Arkansas on this one. I think they get it done 2-1, but the Razorbacks are going to have to go in. And guess what? It's going to have to come down to the bullpen. Can they get those Ks? Can they make plays in field to be able to keep Vanderbilt off the bag? That's going to be most important. And can they get the runs? Can they get some things over that field, that outfield wall for us to continue to keep up being one of the top teams in the conference? I'm going to Razorbacks with you. All right. Let's get to the favorite part of the show. We're starting to talk about the rankings, and let's start at the bottom right now. Let's start with teams who are winless in conference play, and let's talk about them. Missouri, Texas A&M, and Florida all 0-6 in conference play. Looking at Florida, Texas A&M, and Missouri, I think the two biggest letdown, not so much as Missouri, but looking at Texas A&M and Florida, who we've had high expectations. I think their fan bases, the posters, and everybody else who looked at these teams coming into preseason said these teams are going to be pretty good. And right now, I don't think you could have told anybody Florida and A&M 0-6 in conference play. Who do you think get this thing turned around quick, fast, in a hurry? Which team between A&M and Florida?
Florida, probably. I think I've seen more positives out of Florida, right? I think if you're basing off of preseason hype, then maybe A&M, but I just don't know if I've really seen enough from them to think they're going to be able to turn it around. So I would say Florida.
Let's look at two teams right above them with one win in conference play, South Carolina and Palmetary and Kentucky. You're looking at Kentucky and South Carolina. Who do you think has a better opportunity to get a finish strong in this conference? Is it a veteran coach in Paul Maneri, knowing how to win when it maybe matters and being able to rally his team? Or is it Kentucky? Is it Mississippi State, who's kind of just like right there, just, hey, we showing up for a game.
Uh, I don't think either, but if I had to pick one, I would probably say South Carolina. Just due to coaching.
You got Kentucky right there, 2-4. These are the last of the teams that are below 500 in the conference. Now we start to talk about we move up. Here we go. The middle of the pack, the upper echelon of the conference. You have quite a few teams all stacked up at 4-2 in conference play. Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, Auburn, Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss. All of them all tied up at 4-2 in conference play. Who's the toughest team of those 4-2 teams right now as we're getting out of week 2, heading into week 3 in conference play?
I mean, I think that's the easy one. Like if we're including all 4-2 teams, is LSU
Yeah.
for sure. Now, when you get below that, I think there's an interesting conversation around Auburn, Oklahoma, and Bama. And I would take Auburn out of that just because of consistency. And then I would probably lean Oklahoma right now just based on what I've seen on the diamond. But I think we're going to get a really good test seeing the Sooners and Crimson Tide play here in a little bit.
Who you not believing in right now at 4-2 right now that you just think, man, hey, luck, and maybe it'll fizzle out?
I would say Auburn or Ole Miss. I think Auburn's had a lot of close games that they've been kind of toying there and I think we even saw it out of conference play where when they're off, they are all the way off. And I also think too with Ole Miss, I just haven't seen enough consistency from them, and I just don't know if they have that because I think all the teams that are at the top of the conference have like that fifth gear almost. I don't know if Ole Miss can get there.
Let's look at the top teams in the conference right now, all at 5-1. Georgia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Texas, the top teams right now in the SEC. They are your power four. And when you look at those power four, who do you believe in the most as you're looking at these four teams, man?
Mm. I still think Tennessee, like Tennessee's still the best one out of all of them.
Yeah,
But and then I think if you had to flip it and say like which team can you see taking a step back, I think it's Texas. Um,
really?
yeah, I think if I had to rank the top four teams right now, it'd be Tennessee, Arkansas, Georgia, Texas.
Really? You're not impressed with Texas getting
No,
that big one series
I,
over LSU?
I am. I'm impressed with Texas. Like, I'm not saying I'm not impressed with them. I think the three teams ahead of them, like I said, have a different like can take their game to the next level. And until I see Tennessee do that, especially on the road as well, I still question it. I think the most impressive thing with Georgia, man, is 6-1 on the road this year, Perry. That's the most wins in the SEC away from home. And I also too with Arkansas. Man, Arkansas has seemed to find another level right now. And I'm with you where they've fallen apart down the stretch, but as of March 24th, that's how I would put them. I still want to see a little bit more from Texas because I still think if LSU Texas play a series at a neutral site or in Baton Rouge, I'm still leaning LSU. I still want to see that next gear from Texas.
I'm not really impressed, and this might sound crazy. I'm still not sold on Georgia. I'm just not. There's a couple more series down the line I want to see with Georgia, but crazy as it is, when I'm looking at Arkansas, Tennessee, and even Texas, yes, I'm very, very impressed with how Texas held it down at home because Tennessee is known to go spoil your home fans weekend by going in and walking out with LSU with a victory. But Georgia it's still something about that team, although they're 24-2 on the season and 5-1 in conference play. It's still something that it just seems to be like that missing ingredient for me to really be bought into the whole recipe. I'm just it's just something missing, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, Blue.
That's completely fair. I do think out of the like I still think if you take the top four teams, I think Georgia and Texas are probably in that second tier of that top four. And I think Arkansas is in one by themselves. I still think Tennessee is the most complete team in the SEC right now. And I would feel fairly confident in saying that. And because I just think, especially when you start getting into the postseason where you're in, you go to Omaha in the College World Series and it's a neutral site. I just think Tennessee in that type of environment with the way one that fan base travels too, man, they're going to be a really, really hard team to beat.
And what's interesting this weekend with Arkansas going on the road to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is 15-0 at home on the season. The Razorbacks only been on the road 3 times. There have been three neutral sites, but just true road games. They're 2-1. Currently, Arkansas holds the longest win streak in the conference as they head into the midweek. They have a 7-game win streak with Georgia right there behind them at 4 games. The longest losing streak right now is 7 games by Missouri. Once again, looking back at that Vanderbilt Arkansas game, Vanderbilt comes into that series with a 4-game win streak, especially coming through the midweek. Can they survive the midweek? But nonetheless, if Vanderbilt and Arkansas hold on, you're talking about the 2 longest winning streaks currently, consistent long winning streaks heading into a weekend series with Vanderbilt being undefeated at home. That should, I think, turn the level up even more for people to watch this game.
Yeah, completely agree. And I'll be like I'm still super intrigued on just what Vanderbilt's ceiling is, right? Because I really do think if Perry, what happens if they don't allow a grand slam to end the game against Auburn and they win that series? Are we looking at it any differently? Because you take that just that one game, right? Because they easily could have swept Auburn. If you just take that one game, Perry, they're sitting at 5-1 in conference, 20-4 with a 5-game winning streak. And so I do wonder if that loss is just ringing, carrying a little bit more weight than it should. But I think Vandy's a super interesting team, and just because, and we see this, and this might be the only sport where Vandy gets the benefit of the doubt like this. The brand of Vandy is kind of helping him here, right? Because Vandy baseball's been so good for so long that we're just like, okay, it's Vandy. They're gonna
Yeah.
get it together, right? This is the only sport they care about. It's very rare you get that brand recognition for Vandy, but I do think that's also kind of why people are kind of sitting there looking like it's only a matter of time before they get it together.
Yeah. Looking at Vanderbilt, it is a matter of time. And they can get it together this weekend, hosting Arkansas. If they can get a big one. You're looking at Tennessee. We talk about Texas. We talk about Georgia. Coming out of this, who do you think is going to be number one of these four teams? Well, let's just say one of these three between Tennessee, Arkansas, and Georgia. If they hold on, who has the most likely opportunity to be the number one team in the nation after this weekend?
I think, I mean, obviously, since Tennessee's already number one, I think as long as they hold on, I think if you win the midweek, get out of there 2-1 over the weekend, you're going to be just
Yeah.
fine.
Arkansas will be knocking at the door along with Georgia. Texas will be sitting there saying, hey, don't forget about me as well. And as we look at this thing, man, another great show. Blue, anything you got out there for the people? You know what? What's our top 25 looking like, baby? What the top 25, updated top 25 looking like so far, Blue?
Let's see, I got you right here. So I'll go bottom up. 25 Georgia Tech, 24 UCLA, 23 Arizona, Troy coming in at 22, North Carolina at 21, Stanford at 20, UC Irvine at 19, 18 is Louisville, DBU at
Mm.
17, Wake Forest at 16. And here comes the run of SEC teams, man. 15 Ole Miss, 14 Vandy, 13 Southern Miss after the big win over Ole Miss. They sweep their weekend series as well. Alabama at 12, Auburn at 11, Oregon at 10. You got Oklahoma at 9, LSU at 8, Texas at 7, Clemson at 6, Oregon State at 5, Florida State at 4, Georgia 3, Arkansas 2, and Tennessee keeping the number one spot.
Ooh, that damn SEC. Woo! It is a gauntlet, man, going through that thing, man. That is tough. Anybody shock you in that top 25 right now outside of the SEC teams?
Uh, I don't think there's anything super surprising. Troy being in the top 25 is a surprise. I didn't see them being there, but I think that's probably I just think it's Southern Miss, man. They just continue to rise, and I think with how good that team is, they're going to run through their conference. So it's really going to be up to them to make a statement in the midweek games when they get opportunities to play some of these P4 teams. It's going to be super important to win those and look good, especially when it comes down to getting into that, hosting regionals, super regionals, things like that.
Southern Miss, let's call it now. I think one of the teams to watch out up that could be that potential College World Series. Hey, sneak in. It's hard to go over to Hattiesburg, especially if they host a regional. They've been doing it for a long time. That is a tough place for teams to have to go get a victory. Southern Miss look like I don't want to kind of do March Madness, but there's going to be a Cinderella story this year. Southern Miss seems like they could possibly be that Cinderella story. Then you got Troy right there. So you got two programs that's knocking on the door saying, hey, don't forget about us, big ACC, big SEC. We're holding it down respectfully on our own end.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting run here. I'm looking at the schedule for Southern Miss. The funny part is they end the season with a three-game series at Troy. So those two
Ooh,
teams will play to end the season. And on top of that, too, they still have a midweek game against Alabama in Tuscaloosa on April 8th.
ooh. So we got some good football coming down the pipe for Southern Miss.
Yeah, really, really good baseball matchups there. And it's interesting because they lost to Ole Miss earlier this year, bounced back, avenged their loss, and their biggest loss of the year was actually to Mississippi State on the road in Starkville. So very interesting to see there. So what they're 1-2 against SEC teams. Be very, very interesting to see if they get that win over Alabama, especially if Alabama keeps trending the way they are. That could be a top 10 win for the Golden Eagles.
Looking forward to that matchup and looking forward to see what Southern Miss do. We're going to keep our eye on them along with everything that we're doing with the SEC each and every week. We want to thank everybody who's tuned in, whether you're watching live or whether you watch back at a playback of what we're doing. I'm Perry White, my man, Zach McKinnell, a.k.a. Blue. We're going to be right here each and every Monday live at 10 a.m. to give you a recap of all of the SEC weekend baseball series and as well as look back at some of those eye-popping, eyebrow-rising midweek games because we had one last week with Tennessee falling and no longer unbeaten. So as the season continues to turn, not only are those weekend series something crucial to watch, but those midweek games because you never know what you're going to get out of these teams, who's going to throw out their ace, who's going to hold on to them, who's trying to come out of there with a dub and who's not. And so far, it has been up and down when we've seen some of these teams in midweek games, and it's been very surprising looking at these teams in the weekend series. As we talked about, Texas A&M and Florida, two teams right now heading into week 3 of SEC conference play. So far, winless on the season. Can they get it done and get some wins this weekend? So hope you guys have enjoyed the show. My man Zach, let the people know who you are, where they can find you and keep up with you.
Yeah, the Blue Bloods on YouTube, all podcast streaming platforms, and here on Monday mornings, man, 10 a.m. talking SEC baseball, and then FCS Football Central on si.com/college/FCS, man. But looking forward to next week already, man.
Looking forward to it as well. You know, we're going to be texting back and forth as the week go on. Hey, did you see this? Did you see that? And for everybody out there, I'm Perry White. I'm the host of the Jaguar Journal on 107.3 FM in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as well as right here with my man, Zach McKinnell on the Yard Network. You can follow On the Yard Network across all social media sites, X, Instagram, right here on Facebook by hitting that like button. And then on YouTube as well, if you want to subscribe. And if you want to watch this, if you're not on Facebook or you want to share this with anybody who isn't on Facebook, this is going to be on our YouTube channel as well. And then you can follow my Jaguar Journal show, which is on 107.3 FM Talk Radio here in Baton Rouge, on the Jaguar Journal on YouTube as well as on Facebook if you want to keep up with me there. But man, Blue, another great show, man. We're done with week 2 of conference play, headed into week 3, and I think we're picking up steam. This was a lot better than week 1. I'm liking the confidence where we headed with this thing.
Yeah, love it, man. I love it. I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about after next week, man. I think every week we're gonna get a way better picture of where I will say how this conference stacks up against each other, man. I think there's some big series in the next 2 weeks, man. It's gonna have plenty of conversation from it.
Plenty of conversation and hopefully plenty of eyes out there watching. You guys that are watching, be sure to hit that share button, like, go follow Blue and I on all our social sites, as well as subscribing to everything, man. We'd love to have your support. It costs nothing. It's free. I don't need your credit card. I don't want your birth certificate. I don't even know how many kids live in your household. We just want your love and support. As each and every week, we're going to continue to bring you guys this information as we recap the SEC baseball weekend series, midweek games, and looking around college baseball as a whole before we get into conference tournaments, regionals, and then ultimately the College World Series. So from my man, Zach McKinnell, and myself, Perry White, want to thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week, same time, same place.